What's up, everyone, and welcome to the first real episode of Dedicated. Full disclosure, this first episode, it's going to be a heavy one. We're going to be talking about something that might be difficult for some of you, and it's something that my family is going through right now. My family is grieving the death of our dog, Sadie. Now, I have two boys, Benson, who's 4, and Jackson, who's 2. This was their first real experience with death. And what I'm going to talk about today is how I approach that as a dad. Let me preface this video with this is just how I dealt with it. I'm not an expert. I don't have any degrees or anything like that. This was just how me, Chaz, handled my son's first experience with death. And my hope for this is that maybe there are dads out there that might be going through a similar situation that might gain something from me sharing this. Even if this video becomes a what not to do for you, that's fine too. So about 2 weeks ago, like I said, we lost our dog Sadie, and she was just an absolute sweetheart. In fact, we even called her Sadie Sweets. I think that's actually my wife's gamer tag as well, Sadie Sweets. We don't know exactly how old she was when she passed, because when my wife got her, she actually rescued her. The handlers didn't know her exact age, but we estimate right around 13, maybe 14 years old. And unfortunately, about a year ago, we had to take her to the vet, and she was diagnosed with having a tumor. And this tumor was affecting a lot of things. It was affecting her sight, her hearing, her movement, really just her overall quality of life was fading. And the vet told us she had anywhere from a month to a year to live. And we were really fortunate to be able to squeeze out a really good year with our dog Sadie.
Are you petting Sadie? Good job. Be gentle with her.
But we could definitely see that her health was gradually declining. And about 2 weeks ago, Sadie woke up and she had been bleeding from her tumor. There was fluid. She could barely stand up by herself, get herself a drink of water. And my wife and I, we looked at each other and both of our faces basically were saying, this might be it. So I told my wife, hey, we probably need to get Sadie to the veterinarian. Sadie had come into my wife Lindsay's life at a very difficult time for her. Their connection was forged through pain recovery. And if you've ever experienced that, you know that the connections you make during that specific time in your life turn out to be some of the strongest you could possibly have. And that was definitely what Sadie and my wife had. So I know that the whole day leading up to taking Sadie to the vet was pretty heavy for my wife. While I was at work, all I was really thinking about was, how am I going to handle this with my boys? So all day at work, I was trying to figure out what it was I was supposed to be for my family. Was it the strong male present? And should I openly show my emotions so that my sons can know from a very young age that it's okay for men to do that? Is it possible to juggle both at the same time? Or is it something completely different that I'm supposed to be doing that I don't even know about? Dads out there, I know you're kind of know what I'm talking about right now because it's very tough. It's tough navigating what the right thing is to do being a dad. But what I'm realizing as I'm dadding even more is it's not always between right and wrong. It's always between what you feel like is the best decision for your family. But even that is kind of tough to figure out sometimes too, all the time. It's tough all the time. And that might be different between dads and families. It's gonna be different. There is no handbook to this. Just like it was my son's first experience with death, it was my first experience being responsible for facilitating those emotions. Not only for me, but for people I made. That was a scary thought. I wouldn't say I was prepared for it. So I get to the vet's office and my wife, my 2 boys, and Sadie are in the waiting room, and I see Sadie and she's different. Sadie loved being petted. You couldn't walk into a room that she was in without her getting up, coming over to you, nuzzling her head under your hand and making you pet her head. Until you basically had to say, go lay down. You know, she would stay there and just look at you and wait for you to get pet. And Sadie always used to do this. She wouldn't run. Like, Sadie didn't run. She would gallop like almost like teeter-totter. is what she would do to when she would come to you and she'd be excited. That's how she would greet me at the door with our other dog, Lexi, whenever I would come home from work. And it was something that I really looked forward to. And it's something I miss. Sorry. This was not what happened when I came to the vet's office. She was shaking and in too much pain to lay herself down. It wasn't our girl. Her paws were kept slipping out from under. She couldn't hold herself up. Now, again, my boys, they're 2 and 4 years old. They were getting a little restless, a little rambunctious, being a little bit loud, which was kind of making it difficult for Lindsay. So I decided to take them to the McDonald's that was right next door. And this McDonald's had a play place, thank gosh. The vet's office said it would be about an hour and a half before they would even see Sadie. And I'm like, I'm going to get these boys out of this place for right now. And I know that Lindsay would have liked maybe some alone time with Sadie without the boys. And I also figured, get some food in the boys' bellies, let them play off some energy that they had collected just sitting there. And it was good. It was good to see. I think it was good to kind of let them blow off some of that steam that they had collected over at the vet's office. Just kind of maybe calm themselves down a little bit. Even, dare I say, tire themselves out. And we had to go back over to the vet's office with Mommy and Sadie. When we got there, it wasn't 5 minutes that we were there before Sadie had actually gotten called back. So Lindsay took Sadie to the back. I stayed in the waiting room with the boys. I gave them both our phones to let them watch some YouTube. I could tell that they had played off some of the energy and they were kind of mellowing out a little bit. So I wanted them to stay engaged with something and then also kind of calm down. Well, this didn't last because Jackson, who is definitely the mama's boy. Benson's my daddy's kid, but Jackson's the mama's boy. He kind of looked up from his YouTube and realized that mom wasn't there. Started asking questions. I had to tell him Mommy took Sadie back to the doctor's office, or back to in the back. And he asked if he could go back there too. I told him, I'm sorry, buddy, I can't let you do that right now because the vet and the doctor are trying to help Sadie and they need to concentrate. Now, Jackie didn't take this information as well as I had hoped. Took it as well as he could, being 2 and tired. So he kind of started whining a little bit, getting fussy. Had to go to the bathroom, which he actually did. A veterinarian's assistant came out to us after about 5 minutes. I only had to kind of wrangle that fussy 2-year-old for about 5 minutes. But the thing is, when the veterinarian's assistant came out to us and said, your wife wants you back with them, that's when I knew. So I scooped up the boys, went in the back. When we entered the room, my wife was kind of crouched down next to Sadie, arms wrapped around her, and just tears flowing out of her eyes. I said, is this it? She nodded her head and said yes. What I can only describe as instinct kind of took over because immediately I knelt down my boys' level, turned them around because they were looking at Mommy, kind of confused about what's going on. Why was Mommy crying? I turned them to look at me. I said to them, boys, this is going to be Sadie's last day, and we won't be able to take her home with us. Benson immediately started crying. I think he kind of had an idea or was able to understand some semblance of the concept of what was going on because he said, why can't we take Sadie home? Is she dying? I don't want Sadie to die. And I had to say, yes, son, Sadie is going to die today. Some of the hardest words I've ever said. Jackson, on the other hand, again, 2, tired, a little fussy, was just asking questions. Why can't Sadie come home? Started moving chairs around and being 2. And I'll be honest, guys, it was hard to kind of quell my own frustration with my 2-year-old Jackson. I'll be honest, I felt like he was being selfish, and I'm being honest, honestly about my feelings right now in the moment. I felt like he didn't care. I felt like this wasn't important to him, and all he wanted to do was what he wanted to do, which may have been true. However, he hasn't stepped into that room before. He's never been able to process something like this before. And I had to keep reminding myself of that and touch on that patience side, which is sometimes hard to get in touch with.
I said get over easy.
And I had to tolerate it and just control it as much as I could. But he was like opening cabinets and, pulling out what was in there. Wanted to climb over everything, moving chairs and stuff. So that was a little bit tough because there was a lot going on, between Jackson doing his thing, Benson trying to process the information that he's got, process his own emotions, his feelings. Also, my wife, who was heartbroken. We all were heartbroken. Make sure that she was able to have that time with her. And also, I was sad. And I had to regulate everything, regulate Benson's emotions, regulate Jackson's behavior, regulate my wife's sadness, and then my own, which was frustration with Jackson, making sure that I was doing the right thing for everybody, especially Benson, with it being his first time really figuring out and understanding what's going on. And then my wife, who is utterly devastated because this was her girl, and I love Sadie. We all became a family. My wife, Sadie, Lexi, and I, before we got married and had kids, it was a lot going on. But after a while, the assistant came back in, and he asked me a question that I was not prepared for. I wasn't even thinking about it. I don't know why, but he asked us if we wanted the boys to be in the room when Sadie passed. I wasn't expecting this. When he asked me that question, all these different scenarios were going through my mind. Should I let Lindsay make this decision? And then I thought it might be best to take the boys out. So then I looked at Benson, and I thought this might be a good time for him to make his first big boy life decision. One thing that I've always tried to do is empower my kids to make decisions. I feel like that will breed confidence later on, and I hope this is one of those times where it does. So I knelt down, got to Benson's level, and as I was kneeling down, I had decided that I was going to offer him one of two choices. Either we all stay or only my wife. Benson looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, "Daddy, I want to stay." And so we stayed. And in that moment, I was so proud of Benson. The decision he made wouldn't have mattered. What I'm so proud of him for was the fact that he was able to make that big decision. And I don't know if this was the right thing to do or if it was the wrong thing, good, bad, or if it was even the best thing to do. I looked at it as an opportunity for Benson to grow, kind of hit a milestone. And there might come a time when he'd come to me and say, "Dad, I really wish you wouldn't have put that pressure on me when I was a little boy." He might thank me for it, might not even bring it up. And I do think about, did I do this? Did I put this decision on Benson because I was too afraid to make it on my own? That thought crosses my mind. I know that what my intentions were, what I wanted to accomplish out of putting that on Benson, and I think he knocked it out of the park. But we were with Sadie until she passed. When the vet said that she was gone, Benson said immediately, I want to get out of this room. And I understand. And so we did. We left the room. So thank you for listening to my story. I hope that in some way, shape, or form, it might have helped. And I know that telling my story and really just putting it out there for people to hear has definitely helped me. So appreciate you hanging around. And if you did get something from this video and want to continue this ride with me, then please like and subscribe. My next video will be the 10 things I wish I would have known before becoming a dad, a letter to myself. Until then, stay strong and stay dedicated. Leave your brother alone!